Okay, we're here. Can everybody hear me okay? Hopefully yes. We shall see. I think there's a good 15-second delay in Twitch, so we'll have to deal with that a little bit. But just checking my Google Hangout stream. We're good there. And we're good on Twitch, it looks like, for video, as long as the audio is up and working. Sweet. All right. So I'll have Twitter up. You can ask me questions on Twitter, on Google Hangouts that I posted in the link, or you can ask me questions on right here in the old Twitch TV panel. I don't know what this guy's doing here, but anyway. So yeah, my name is Jonathan O'Donnell, and I'm a programmer, and I'm doing this just for fun, basically. But I also am looking for remote work in Ruby on Rails, if possible. So that's what I'm trying to do. So if you have anyone looking for that, let me know. My homepage here is jonathano'donnell.herokuapp.com, and all you need to do is go in there and check it out. There's a LinkedIn, Twitter, and GitHub you can check out. And right now we're working in GitHub. And if you go to github.com/johnny2779, click on repositories, and click poker. We're going to continue on with this from what we've had yesterday. So let's just really quick add a README. Say, oops. Okay, so you need a higher version of Ruby, so Ruby 2 or greater. So you can basically make comments or edits right in GitHub if you want to. And yeah, so I'll just commit this new file, and that adds it to the front page. So just so people know a little bit of how to run the project in case they want to go on here and test it out. So let's get it running up for our project. So what I'm using is RubyMine. RubyMine is a product by JetBrains. They make a lot of awesome and interesting products, but I've been using RubyMine for about 2 years. I really like it. I think it's great, and it takes a long time to load up at the first. So let's have a quick check. And we'll just say stream is live. Okay, so hopefully we'll get some people that are interested. Now Control F9, I think, is what I did here to get rid of presentation mode. Control F10. So let's just get everything all ready to roll here. So here's the project that we've been working on, and now I'm just going to get the terminal ready to go. Let's see if we can get those two guys. And I think we can make this a lot bigger so everybody can see it nice. And in here, we can hit Control F10 and go into presentation mode. There. So now everybody should be able to see really nicely what's going on. So the first thing we need to do is let's change directory to this poker directory. So cd poker. Okay, so you can see I'm using like a OMyZSH. It's a shell script instead of bash, and it tracks what branch I'm on for Git, but it also has a lot of nice other add-ons that I use. So the first thing I'm going to do is run rspec. So rspec spec, and make sure all my tests pass, and they don't. One of them fails. So let's just do an ls in here so we can see what's happening. So we have our lib folder, so we'll cd lib. Well, we'll just do ls lib. So inside of lib, we've got card, deck, game, and player. And if we ls spec, we've got the card spec, the deck spec, the game spec, and the player spec. So what we're trying to do is create Texas Hold'em, sort of a format of a game. So back to our failing test, we've got a couple things that are warning, top level constant, referenced by deck. And down here we say, game show middle cards prints out the middle cards. Failure expected the game show middle cards dot nil to equal false, but it got true. So the game showing middle cards printed out nothing. And I think that is because if we go to this game class, we put a nil at the end here. So there's no actual string returned. And that's the first thing that I'm going to fix today. So in this show middle cards, this is going to be instead middle cards. And I'm going to call it middle cards string. So these are the cards in the middle of the table as you're going to play the game, right? So the cards like the flop, the river, and the turn. And let me just check Google Hangouts, make sure that's going okay. Yep, so we should be good on both places now. All right, so yeah, and you can follow me on @O'DonnellCarl too. That's a nice link to know as well. I plan to do a bunch of these, so if you want to follow me, you're more than welcome, and I'll post the updates in the Twitter feed. So the reason I call this middle card string is that I want to go back to the play method. So it says puts game.show middle cards, and that is how I want it to work, because that's printing out what the game has for show middle cards. So let's go, oh, I need to change that method name. Go back into the game class, and I need to say middle card string. So this will print out the middle card string. That's how we're going to do. Okay, that actually clears up a little bit. So instead of printing out here, what I'm going to do is say return string. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want it to print out twice at the end. I put a nil here before, and you can see in my test that it basically says 7 of clubs and everything during the test. The middle cards R and F. Well, then one failed, and it says test cards, which are this. So the middle cards are blah, blah. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to say return string equals just a blank string for now. And I'm going to say return string. I'm going to pipe in this. And I want a new line at the end of this. So I'm going to do slash new line. I think it's actually the other slash. Like that. Let's just make sure that works. So if we go into IRB inside of here, we can just type IRB. If you have Ruby installed, it's called Interactive Ruby. So you just type IRB inside of here, and you can start writing things. So we're just going to make a new string, called it A equals a string, which is foo /n to check a new line, and it has /n in it for some reason. I think you might need double quotes to do the one I'm thinking. So that one didn't put the single brackets. Let's have it check again. So then I'm going to say puts A. There it goes. So that /n is what we need to do, and these being double quotes. So let's do that. So, and then instead of here, I need to do it again, card.displayValue, which is a string. So I'm going to add on another string, which is the /new line, and this will be return string. And we're going to pipe in, so all this means is like take the value of card.displayValue and put it into return string. which just appends a big array of these things. So let's just try a return string. There. So now we're returning the return string. So let's go back to here, and we'll exit this. Oh, and then let's do our rspec again. So there, we lost the output. So now it's no longer putting that output there. So we'll say game undefined method show middle cards for game. Okay, so I forgot to change that somewhere. So right here in the test, it needs to be not show middle cards. It needs to be middle card string. So copy that. Oops. Go back here and paste it in. Middle card string. So I expect the game.middlestring.nil to equal false. So if I deal around, deal multiple cards, and get those middle strings, You know what we could do is just call this method print cards and pass in whatever we want into there so that then it can repeatedly output these things. So I think in the player class it has a method called show cards, which says the player's name plus cards. We could put that show cards. So at the top level, well, before we do that, let's just run these specs again, make sure they pass. Okay, so they all didn't fail. Now we just need to get rid of this test cards. So that's the second to last test we ran, which I'm guessing is in player spec. So expect player.showcards.nil to equal false. So what we want to say then is the same sort of thing in the player class. Instead of showing the cards, we want to do that. And now we're just copying the same method basically. So I think I'm going to get rid of this method. And in the game class, I'm going to say show cards. And I'm going to pass into show cards an array of cards. And the, let's say, object name. So instead of here, instead of cards, I'm just going to call it cards with each, do card. Puts card.displayValue, which is what we want. But it's actually going to be like this one. So let's copy this guy actually. Get rid of this. So what we want to do is get rid of this, paste it over. So we'll say return string equals, the middle cards are plus n, and it's going to go through all of the cards, and for each one set a card, and that will return it. So we'll say show cards, and we're just going to pass in the middle cards. So it deals the middle cards, and then it shows the cards. And I guess we're going to do this deck.deal. We're going to refactor that in a second too. So the object name, say, instead of here the middle, we're going to say a new part. So we're going to say object name plus, and we'll do a dot to, well, it's going to always need to be a string, right? If there's an error there, I don't think we're going to put validation for that just yet. So we'll say object name plus cards. So we'll say player 1 cards are, player 2 cards are, and so on and so forth. So this show cards method should print out everything. So now we need to go into the player spec, and this test should be, this should go in the game class. It's in the game spec. So here it's going to show the middle cards, and it's going to expect this game show cards, and this is going to also be show cards. Show prints out the middle cards, so we're going to do deal the round, get the middle cards, and expect game dot show cards. We're going to pass in the object, which will be like middle cards. And this doesn't need to be a special string, it can just be a regular string. If you want to learn video game programming, I would suggest getting into Unity and JavaScript. So I'd learn some Node.js. That'd be one thing I would learn, and I would also learn Unity, download the Unity engine and work from there. That's probably the best way to start. There's tons of Unity tutorials out there, and I think that would be really easy and helpful to program video games. What kind of video games do you want to make, though? while he's answering that, I'm going to keep going. So middle cards are here, and we pass in the cards, which will be at game dot middle cards, like that. So the reason we're doing this show cards method is that we're going to show the cards the same every time. So let's get back here for our terminal, and this is going to go through and show the cards. So we need to change the play one here. So it's going to be game dot show cards, and it's going to be and we're going to game dot player one. Let's just make sure we in the player class. Yep, so his cards are actually stored on the player. So now we need to go to the player.rb and make this line similar. This may not be the best refactor yet, but we're going to just start with this. And this one will just be player 2, obviously. And deal middle cards will be game.show cards, and we're going to pass in middle, and we're going to pass in game.middle cards. So basically the game object stores everything. It keeps track of the player, keeps track of the middle cards, keeps track of everything. I don't know if that's the best way to structure it for right now, but let's just start with that. So now we need to look at the player spec to make sure that is there. So the player says you can add cards to it, which you definitely can, except in the game spec, now the players don't have extra cards. So what we're going to need to do is deal around. So we have to deal around on the game, and we'll say at game.show cards and pass in player test, and then we'll have to do pass in the cards at game dot show cards, which we don't need anymore, dot nil to equal false. Okay, so let's try this. Let's run our tests and see what happens. They all passed. Awesome. Now let's run our game and see if that works. Ruby. So the players don't have any cards, or at least it's not showing them properly, but the middle cards are printing out properly. And the middle cards are separated by arrays. Let's see if we can fix that by just doing a toString on them. So in play.rb, we've got deal middle cards. I think we're going to need to do a dot to, let's see what the display value is. Number plus suit. Yeah, let's do number dot toString because it's an array element. Dot toString there. Yeah, and let's just check to see if that fixed the problem there. It did not. We'll have to look more into it. So here are the player cards. That's not really working. So let's look at our play.rb. So deals around, what's that do? Adds cards to the players. Player 1 cards, player 2 cards, and it pushes more cards inside of it. Then it says show cards, player 1, game.player1.cards. Let's try this. So it has the 4 of diamonds, okay, so it has the King of Hearts and the 4 of diamonds. So it does have one, and it has display value for both King of Hearts and 4 of diamonds. So it's not failing there. So it has the cards. It's in this method. Cards. So let's see how we're calling that. Game.player1.cards. It definitely has two cards. So we'll say puts game.player1.cards.map. This is just shorthand syntax to do that. Let's display value. So the Jack of Spades and the Jack of Clubs is what's there. And that's how we print that out, the display value. So that's working. So instead of doing that, let's cut these out of here, go back into show cards, and we're passing in the object name, which should be this one, and the cards that are there, that's right. So now let's do puts cards dot inspect. Let's see what cards are in there. So it definitely has the cards it needs to get, but it's not getting the display value. So we'll say puts we'll say display value. And that. Okay, so that does put them out. Oh, because it's return string. That's what's happening. See, this should say puts, because it's saying to show cards, right? I'm going to rename this method to make it more clear so I don't forget again. I think I can just refactor, rename, and instead of show cards, I'm going to say show cards string, like that. Do the refactor, show card string, and we should have now show card string. So the game.showCardString player1 game.player1.cards. I think we could even, this is sort of like a module, you know, it's a different sort of class. We shouldn't need an instance of a game to show the cards. So we can make a class here called new file, and we'll call it GameHelper.rb. And inside of here, we'll make class, and we're going to say how do you make static methods again? I don't think you can. It's going to be GameHelper dot. Not really a way to that I can think of anyway, unless I do it on self. Yeah, let's delete this guy for now. I don't think we really need that. So yeah, let's go back to play. So we have our show card string, player1, player2, and the last thing is we got to run our tests to make sure that refactor actually is okay. And it is. So now I've got this warning, top level constant. Let's see how we fix that guy. So I'll post something on Twitter. Let's see what it is. Nothing we care about. That is like bad forum. Stack Overflow, there we go. Your folder file structure should look as follows. App models, question document. Now we're talking to find the correct models. It's a different problem. It's not referenced by. What was the error again? Or in top level constant referenced by. So let's see what that does. excuse me. Check if user info is defined. It is not yet. Check if info is defined. It is not yet. Do Rails magic define user info and require it? Now let's do it again. So maybe it's that it doesn't know where that location of that file is. Let's see where those are actually. I think they're in card and deck. They're in deck. So the deck has a bunch of things here that are, oh, they're kind of outside the class. Let's see what happens. What if we cut these out of here and put them inside of our deck class? Or we could even make a constants class or something like that. So if we did that, let's see. Bunch of things fail. Unless there's constant card numbers. Oh, card numbers. Card numbers and deck suits. There we go. That's the problem. Deck numbers.collect. That's what it is. Let's try it again now. There, we got rid of the errors, and now we're back to just 8. And that actually was an error. You know, that shouldn't have been card numbers because it didn't know how to get it, which makes perfect sense. Okay, so now let's go back and refactor what we had seen inside of the game class. So right here we're doing a bunch of dealing we shouldn't do. We're dealing over and over. What we really want to do is say who to deal to, and we want to deal X amount of cards. So this deck.deal method needs to have, let's call it card holder, and we'll call it amount. So what we really want to do is say the card holder, cardholder.cards. Let's try this. So we'll say cardholder.cards equals a new array, and then we'll say amount do, and then we're going to say this method, which is actually the deal a card. So that will, this actually deals a card. So maybe we should make a private method down here. So this will deal cards. We're going to X that out, put it down here. Deal single card. So that will return the card. So we're going to say cardholder.cards. So this is just going to return a cards array. So we don't really need to know the card holder. So what we need to do instead is assign it. So let's just say instead amount. So deal an amount of cards. And we'll say amount.times. We'll say deal single card. And this will be in a cards array. And it should return cards by default. So let's make a test for this, because it's a little bit different now than it was before. So in our deck spec, we're now saying it should deal a single card. So deck.deal 1, right? Let's see if that test passes. Boom, tons of them failed. Game.deal round. Deal. Okay, deal's called everywhere else. That's right. I forgot to rename that. So what we can do really easily is go into, so we'll say deck.deal 1. Well, actually, we can just change this now. So we're going to deal instead of dealing twice, we're just going to deal to each player once, and we're going to deal 2 cards at a deal amount. So we're going to deal 2 cards. And that is saying, let's try the brackets to see what happens. Weird, it needed brackets. Usually Ruby methods don't need brackets. So middle cards is deck.deal 5. Like that. And let's run our spec again and see what happens. 4 failures this time. Game, deal round, it deals 2 cards each player. Expected 2, got 1. So this deck would deal 2 cards. Oh, it's going to pass them in one at a time if we do it that way. Let's go deck.deal amount. Returns this. Let's just try cards. Isn't it? Okay, so let's look at the game RB22. Game spec 22. Expect game.player1.cards.count to equal 2. So if we deal around, that deals at player 1 cards and player 2 cards. Oh, I know why. It's because of... No? I want each person to get 2 cards. Oh. The reason is it's passed them in as 2 elements in the same array. So we can't pipe it in here. We need to just say equals. Yeah, that's what we need to do. I think that's going to change a bit. Let's see. Boom. That was why. So the reason was in this deck.deal method, we were putting 2 elements in an array and then piping those 2 elements into a single element. So if you think about it like this, you've got an array that's like A, comma, B, and you inject that into another array, which is going to then have A, comma, B, because it's putting the method that we had into the other array. So it's a blank array that injects it, right? So this is like saying this, whoops, pipe. Putting this into a blank array gives us this. That was the problem. So I think now we're actually making some good progress. Let's just take another check at what we've written. So in our card spec, oh, we have nothing in there. That's one red flag. So let's go to our deck spec and just copy this guy to get started. So require deck, and then this will be describe card. Before each, we don't really know what we're going to do yet, so let's just get rid of this line. Oops. And describe card, so we don't really know what we're going to do here either. So let's just get over here. Okay, so, and this will be card, describe a card. So what does the card class do? It has initialize method, so new cards have to have a display value, so let's check that. We'll say, because I know we have that problem with how we're outputting these things with 2S and things. So what we can do is test that one first. So we'll say initialize. It has new so inside of here we're gonna have to say at card equals card dot, and we're passing it in let's say the ace of spades. And we expect oops, and dot 2 equal, and I think we can just put this in. So we'll say A A dash spades. Let's see what happens there. We don't really need this at one because it's just a regular variable. We're not really making a new card. Unless we want to do it a bunch of times, but we're not doing that either. So let's get rid of this before each. We're not doing it yet. So now we need to go. Excuse me. Just gonna get less water. So now what we need to do is run this test. It's probably going to fail. Oh, it passed. Let's play the game and see. So it's playing it with a comma. So the way the game is playing is actually wrong. It's printing out these commas everywhere. Let's go have a look at that. So this test passed. Let's put the A space and make sure it fails. Yeah, so that display value is the right display value. So how are we making these new cards? Let's go into how it's dealt. Deck.deal 5. So it's grabbing a card, deal single card, which gives us a card which comes from this cards array. StackDeck.flatten. What if it's a stuff Latin? So this would say get our suits, this, and make the number suit. So it should be clubs this. That should be a string and a string. Dot collect. That just means you all the suits. I wonder what dot each would do. Let's run that and see what happens. Doesn't like that. So we've got a card here. Let's call this C. Put C dot display. So we run this. So it prints out with commas every time. So the display value is what's wrong. It takes a number.toString, puts a comma, because it's a different array element. Oh, wait. What? So it's quote, quote, comma, dash, quote, quote. So instead, what we're going to have to do is get rid of this puts, get rid of this, and then we need to check that the, we need to see these guys. Self.number, self.suit. Number and suit. Oh, well, excuse me, puts number, puts suit, and we'll put display value. Let's just cut these and put them in the right place. So I'm guessing what we're going to need to do, so we're printing out the display value. Is that going to print out? Let's just try it. So we got A, comma, clubs, comma. Why is it printing out commas every time? Let's try self. Although I don't think this should make a difference. Let's try that. Still printing out commas every time because we're just printing this, right? So it's just A and printing a comma. Why? Why? Maybe it's the way. Maybe it's the way the. Oh, it's these. These are space delimited because of the %W. Boom. There we go. King. It still has the quotes around that each one because I have the quotes here. You don't actually need these. Oops. Then we'll just check this. So, boom, there it is. That was the reason. Awesome. Okay. Now we've got everything all good to go. So the initialize method is checking that, but the cardspec didn't catch that error. It's because we passed in different values than we're passing other places. So I think that's actually okay. That was like an integration test. So we have to test it when the cards go in. I think that's overkill. Let's just keep going for now. So then we have to check the cards' values, which we haven't really worked with yet. So let's just comment this out because I think we're going to use it in the future. So that class is okay. The deck class has an initialize method, which gives us a stacked deck. So what we could do is say check the first card to make it ace of clubs. That's what we'll do. So in the deck spec, we're going to say another one of these describe. We'll just type it for fun. Say hash because it's just the initialize method. And we'll say do it should there. Oh, you're right. Card.rb. My bad. How does that even work? You're definitely right. Okay, so let's go back to here. It should have the correct names for the display value. So we'll say we've got our at deck. So we'll say expect at deck. We'll say dot to, and we need to check the display value. Dot display value. Dot to equal, and here we're going to put in to equal the ace of. Let's run that test. Now I'll pass, so just make sure. We'll add an error in, and again, and yes, of course, we need to have ace of clubs. Now there's a log demeter that says we're doing too many dots here. It's probably because this should be a hash, not an array. If we were to do that, we could index it something like this. We'll say dot a clubs maybe or something like that. and then check the display value, but it doesn't really do that much for us. So I think for right now it is. But I'm sure that people will complain about that. But the log meter says it shouldn't have more than, well, ideally 1 dot. But sometimes there's exceptions to be made that way, especially for like count and display value. These are just methods that don't really do anything. They're just properties, right? So I'm not too worried about that. So now we have new tests that would have caught our old test. So if we go, let's just test that. So we go back into our deck class and add like a, quote to clubs. We should see the test fail. And it does, because it has this now, the A dash, and then the clubs with the quotes around. So that's a new thing learned. Wow, those %W arrays are really awesome. All right, run the test again, and we're all passed. And now let's go. So we've checked out the initialize method, the deal method, and the deal single card method. So deck spec should have, this test should be up at the top because they should always go in order. So the initialize method and this one right here, I can cut it out and put here, like that. And if I describe the deal method, it should deal a single card, which is great. Go back to deck. Now we have, it should deal multiple cards is what we need now. Because now we have lots of them, right? So it should deal a single card, and we'll copy this. And we'll say it should deal multiple cards. So we'll deal out 5 cards and expect the count to be equal to 47. And run our tests. It's fine. And I guess we don't really want to have this because we've already expected that an initial deck has 52 cards, so we don't really need to check to see if it doesn't have that. So a single, if you deal one deck, it should give you 51 cards, and if you deal another one, it should give this. That's actually a really great point to show right now, because you'd think that if it dealt 1 card and dealt 5 cards, it'd be 6 less. So you'd think that would be the situation, but it's not. The reason is because every time it hits an IT block, it goes back and creates a new deck. So if you're testing your code and you're like, why are my tests so slow? Always check your before blocks first, because that runs before each assertion, which is these little IT blocks. So now that we've made that into like a grouped part, because we're testing the deal method, testing the initialize method, let's go back into card spec, get rid of this initialize, that's fine. And let's go to our game. So now we have a deal round, deal middle cards, and show card string. So now our game class tests our initialize, it tests deal round, it tests deal middle cards. I think that's still there, isn't it? Deal middle cards, yep. And it tests show cards twice, so we don't need to do that. Just cut that out. So if we deal around, deal middle cards, and every one of these is dealing around. So I guess we can take this line and cut it and put it up here, because it's doing it every time. Just to make it a little cleaner, a little anal, but the little could be anal, here and there. It gets better. Your code just improves. And it prints out the middle cards. So show cards works with show middle cards. But we really said that it can work with any amount of cards. So this test is a little bit redundant. It's calling the method the exact same, assuming there's middle cards that are there. So I don't think we really need this. It should say, it should print out the cards that it's passed. And then we have this other string where it says we expect the player cards to equal false. So what we need to do is check to see it has, we could match it on a regex if we wanted to, but I think we'll just leave it as is. And let's run our tests again. Awesome. So we eliminated some tests and made it slower than last time, it seems. But anyway, yeah, we're still really, really fast tests, under a second. Except it takes 0.2 seconds to do this. But anyway, that's not our problem right now. So now let's get back to our game. So play.rb is what we want to look at now. So this is the actual play class. So here are the player cards. Player 1 cards are the 5 of spades, the 9 of hearts. The player 2 cards are the 9 of spades, the 4 of diamonds. So I guess the next thing we want to do is make a counter class to check all of the cards. So we'll check the player cards and the middle cards to see what their hand is. So let's look at this one. So he's got spade. He doesn't have any spades to flush. He doesn't have any hearts for a flush. All he has are the 5 and 9, which has no pair. So all this guy is high card ace. And this guy is a pair of 4s. So in this case, player 2 should win. So let's go back to our play class. And we need to go into the game class. And we need to say def show winner. So show winner. Not really part of the game. If you think about it, like the game is how the game works. It's really the referee or the counter that actually counts the card to see who's actually winning. I think for that reason we're going to make a counter class, or what can we call it? Counter analyzer. What can we call that? Dealer class. Well, that really is. It is the dealer that decides, but it doesn't really make sense because we have that deck.deal method. Let's just say win. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll call it win. And inside there it will detect who wins the round. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Win. So we're doing class win. And inside of our win class, we need to just say def and we'll say that's it. And then inside of our spec class, we're going to make a new spec, and we'll call it win spec. And I think we're going to do fire, and we'll say win.rb, and then we're going to say describe, I think it's just lowercase, describe win do string. I think let's just check doing this right. Show cut this out here, put it up here. I think that's sort of the format we had it last time. Let's just check. Player spec has nothing inside of it. So inside here we said describe. There we go. Require this describe do describe game it. So there's two describes and then an it block. Which in our case, two describes and an it block. Yeah, awesome. So to show the winner string, so we'll say equal. We'll say so we'll call a method show winner string. Pass in players. There's many players in there. Dot nil. We'll just do that again. Yeah. Dot nil. Dot two. So it doesn't know what to go to here. It is no instance of a win class. And I was going to call it show winner string. Called it winner string. Which makes me think that I've done the other ones wrong too. Win.winner string. Win is a win.new. Def winner string. Let's look at our other classes to make sure we get the same. Class player. Yep. Winner string. And now let's run our tests. Players. Doesn't know what players are. That's right. So this needs to take into, needs to have players. There we go. Here, we need to put some players in this. And we have to pass, and I think this, and we'll pass it another is, call it Angela. So that's our players. So we'll pass in here instead of just that, we'll play @player. And yeah, so now we'll say the players that are in there .nil to equal false. @players equals player.new, players Angela, that's right. So there's our win class. It should show the winner string. Now let's run our tests. Assert equal, whoops. Expect. I'm running in expect. Okay, expected false got true, so that is nil, so it's not printing out anything, so that's great. So inside of here, we need to say, put the, we need to run a method called decide winner. So how's it going to decide the winner? It's going to need cards off of everything. In fact, it'll need a lot more. A new win class is going to need a lot of things. So inside our win list, we're going to have add our accessor. And we need to place, we need player, we'll need a player 1. Well, actually, let's call it players. And we're going to need middle cards. You'll need players and middle cards because we'll have to evaluate based on those. So this can just be pass in the @players, and in the initialize, actually we should have everything we need except for @players. Oh, there it goes. Doesn't like that. I might need a def initialize here. Pass in. I will need this, because otherwise I won't be able to define these things when I set it up. Middle cards. And I'm going to have to say inside of here that self.players equals and self.middle cards equals. Let's just make sure I've done that properly. @name. That's right. Doesn't need to be self. And I think I did that in the deck class. Yeah, right here. This can be not self dot. Let's run our spec again. Winner string @players. That was the thing we had before. So we need that because now we have the players already defined. Oh, it can't pass in @players because it's already defined in the class. I think that's what's wrong. 0 for 2 because I changed the arguments. Now we're back to where we should be. Shoot. 0 for 2. Because this needs now a list of players. So these are now going to be up here. It's going to be an array of players. And then middle cards we're going to need as well. So we'll say and we'll have to do a game.deal middle cards. Ooh, yeah. So really we need to start a game here. So we'll see game equals game dot round and game.deal middle cards. So yeah. So inside of here, we'll deal the middle cards. So everything should be there in game. So instead of doing this, what we're going to do is say this will be game dot play 1, comma game player 2. I'm going to put that in an array because now we're trying to deal with players as an array of players. And middle cards will be game.middle cards. So now the win condition will have the players and the middle cards. So do we really care about the players? Yes, because we need to say their name and stuff. So all this can do is deal up the round and give it the player 1, player 2. There we go. Okay. So winnerstring.nil to equal false. So that's what we're trying to do. Show the winner string. Let's run the test again. There. Expected false got true. So now we got to go in here and decide on how to show the winner string. We'll just say, so this method is going to say what? It's going to say, it's going to say like a player's, and it's going to have to be, say, so I'll have to say player dot toString plus has 1. So here, it doesn't really matter what we pass in for this one. I have to say win dot oops, that's the wrong thing. This does not work. Oh yeah. There, passed. So that's going to print out the who won the game. So player has won the ground. So now we need to do, say, evaluate hand. So what are we going to do here? Let's look at Wikipedia for a second, see what the hands of poker are. What's a nice looking chart? So straight flush is the highest. I mean, royal flush is on top of that, but straight flush is the highest. 4 of a kind, full house, flush, straight, 3 of a kind, 2 pair, 1 pair, high card. So I guess what we're going to have to do is say, what do you have in a ranking system? So we'll give it the highest number that comes back. Ugh, I don't like that either. First, let's make an array of hands you can have. So I think we're going to say hands equals one of these %W things. If I could type, that would be awesome. And we're going to say, so the lowest hand is what? Please go there, thank you. High card, 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 of a kind. Three of kind. What's the next one? Straight, flush, full house, 4 of a kind. And the last one was what? Straight flush? Straight flush, and we'll say royal flush just for flavor. So we'll tag this in here. Straight flush and royal. Okay. So this will, that's all the hands you can get. Let's just make sure that I set that the right way. Yeah, cool. I don't think it matters the value. I don't think this even matters. Let's just get rid of that since we've had it before. So now this win class is going to say winner string. So now we're going to say def hand rank. So hand rank will give us hand string would give us the 1. But we don't really care about that. We just care about where it lands in the array, because the highest one in the array is the winner. So hand rank. Yeah, let's do that. So pass in cards, and that can be all of the cards. We don't care, right? So we're going to pass in all the cards to the hand rank. And let's write the test first for this, maybe. So this win spec will say, so describe hand rank, so hash. If here we're going to say it should and the corresponding string. So I'm going to expect the @win hand rank. I don't like that, because the hand rank should be on the player class or the game class. To get the hand rank, well, this is the win class. I mean, we're trying to say which one wins. So expect player.win.hand rank. So I have to be at players dot card. Oh, I don't like that. We haven't switched them all to that, so I think we're going to just go like this. I think we're going to just make it win.new and go back into win here, and we're going to make it player1, player2. Because we haven't really taken it to be multiplayer, it's more than 2 yet, so let's just say, just call it like this for a second. You know what I'm saying? So say player1, comma, and then we'll say at player1 equals player1, and we'll just duplicate that line. We'll say player2, just like that. So let's just go back to our spec here. So we're saying that, so instead of this, it's just win.player1.cards. So pass in those ones, so we need that, plus we need win.middlecards. Make sure we can add arrays like that. So let's do IRB. We'll say an array of 1, 2. So that's an array of 1, 2 plus an array of 3, 4. We get an array of 1, 2, 3, 4. That's exactly what we want. So we want to pass in hand rank. I think we're going to just take this and say all cards. Well, let's just call it cards. Equals, and then we're going to get this guy out of here. So we want it to equal an array of number plus value. So say dot first to equal type number, and the second one to equal string. I don't know what that is. Let's just type here type dot number. I want it to be the last dot string. Make sure that this returns an array, which is hand string, like that. And I think rank is a reserved keyword actually. So we'll say the what's it called? Number level. Let's call it in hand string. I really like rank. Let's see if it marks on it first before we guess it's a reserved word. So now we need to test. So rspec test type number. It should be an integer. Be kind of string. Be a string, be an integer. Let's try it. 2 be and it was integer lowercase? I don't remember. Uppercase. Okay. Go. Be a string. Let's run those tests and see what happens. Under method players. Whoops. Player 1. So now we're actually going back to, okay, so yeah, that was fine. All it says is that we can't use rank or hand rank because we don't know what those things are, which is exactly where we should be. What do you think about this method of development so far? Put me a note in the chat here so I can see if you like this test-driven development approach or if you like other ways, if you think it's a little bit too convoluted or doing too much. So let me know. So inside of here, we're going to pass the cards, and it has to decide on what each thing is. So the dirtiest way I can think is we guess, like, is flush, you know, is flush. And then each of those things says a higher ranking. because we have to start at the top and go down, right? So let's say is royal flush. I think this is actually the way to do it, to tell you the truth. And we'll say is royal flush. If it is a royal flush, we want to return the rank and hand string. So inside here, say if royal flush, we'll just say rank is 1, it'll be the lowest. So lower is better? Nah, that's stupid. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at that. Rank is 10. String is hands 10. Actually, 9. Is that how we referenced them before? I think it's going to have to be win hands 9. Not the capitals. Let's go check the deck class. Deck numbers, yeah. So, hands 9. I guess we want an index here. Index equals 1 by default, I guess. So what we really want to do is say index equals 10, if that happens. And we want to see here is pass back index and pass back win colon hands and at index. So this is going to be stupid long, but we have to do it. Is royal flush, I have to say, like straight flush, we're going to keep going down through all these things. So I'll put a note here. Add all the hand checks. And we're going to test each one of these. I think that's where the big bulk of the logic is going to be, right? So, yeah. The only thing I think we should do is color the, change the terminal output to put symbols, I guess. Say like 4 and put the symbols, but we can do that. I'll put that in my notes. Mod, terminal output for better UI. So yeah, now we need to define is royal flush. And it's going to take the cards. So for royal flush to happen, it has to be a king, an ace, and it has to be the same suit. So let's say cards. Well, first off, we need to test this a little more. Let's go back to here and say should return a hand rank plus number when it returns a string. So that's actually going to fail every time because it's not going to get it. Oh, it will actually. It will. So let's go back into our code and say false. Now, right? Is royal flush? Everything's false, but 1 is what comes back. So we need to go into our tests again, run the tests, and now they all pass. Awesome! That's cool. Wow, that one took a lot longer. Why did that test take so much longer? because it has to deal around and everything, I guess. Huh. Surprised that took longer. Anyway, so what we need to do now is test the royal flush method. And inside here we say it should only detect. What we're going to do is say at win dot is royal flush. We're going to pass in the cards, which is at, well, we're going to say this cards thing again. And we're going to say this all the time, so this line really needs to be a global one, like up here. We're going to call this at cards, we'll say player 1 card, is this. So instead of, this is going to be at player 1 cards, at player 1 cards. So here we're going to, don't need that anymore. So we're going to pass in at player 1 cards. But now we don't know because these are random every time they're generated. So what we're going to do is say, I guess we're going to have to say, make the cards individually here, because we're not going to know which ones are the good ones. I think that's still good because here it should have that, but I think down here we're going to have to say card dot new, like so it have to be the ace of spades, and then we'll have to pass another one. Hey, how's it going? Sounds like all of my love. Oh, he's gone. So we'll put the queen spades in here. Queen of spades. And card.new, I'll put the jack of spades. So put this on just so we can see it better. Jack of spades.
Eu estou a ficar preocupada com o que diz no ecrã do senhor. Apenas de tentar.
O gajo está a fazer código.
Oh, time to mute this person.
A gente está mute.
Finalmente eu estou em direto pro mundo todo. Eu gostaria de mandar um abraço para minha mãe. Dizer que finalmente consegui a fama e não foi fácil.
Não foi fácil, ok. Jonathan, what are you coding?
Afonso, corta o microfone do Skype.
Jonathan, what are you coding?
Trying to mute people, but I can't for some reason. Turn them down maybe?
Yeah, because
There we go. Ah, muted, perfect. Coding for fun on Reddit, and yeah, in case you just want to know, it's we're coding a poker game from scratch, doing TDD in Ruby. To help people out to learn. Okay, so now let's go back to here and put the 10 of spades. So this should be an array of all the cards. So say cards equal. Pass all these guys. Close off our array and put a comma. And now everything is not working. Oh, I know why. We have to pass them in separately. That's the way we decided to make it, for some reason. That's exactly why. So now I'll put in the queen,
There's too many lies, bro.
spades,
Too many lies.
and put in the jack of spades,
Oh my god.
and oops, the 10 of spades, like that. There we go. Okay, so now we're just going to pass in the cards.
Listen.
So that is a royal flush right there, right? So we expect that to be equal to a royal flush. So expect
Everyone who's watching this on YouTube know that this
that is royal flush
God doesn't want
dot to true. I think we can actually just get rid of this and say expect this. But just for clarity, let's do this now. So now let's go back and run this test, and we get expected true but was false. Obviously, because we're not really detecting it yet. So now we have
Ainda não nos tínhamos lembrado dessa.
oh man. So check to see if they're all not the same suit. That's the first thing. And apparently I have a ton of chat messages. Let's see.
La, 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 la. Google Hangout. Oh, eu achei o link desse vídeo agora no YouTube, espero que eu te mando.
É tipo que por acaso tipo, tu vês cenas bem.
Olha, gente, nós estamos ao vivo pro mundo todo. Total cliché.
So this is just going to return a cards array. So we don't really need to know the card holder.
Vocês estão muito malvados. Ele tava aqui fazendo um serviço e foi embora. Porra. Alô?
Oh, ok, calma. Tenho. Talvez seja. Ai.
Que merda é essa?
Wait here.